Yeah, marketing if I'm new, beginner, etc.
I started just posting a lot of content. So, I mean, I would write Facebook posts and you could write daily emails. I just took so much action on the research part, I just couldn't have lost.
How does one who is a nobody, how did you build connections and how can someone doing that?
Find an industry you're passionate about. Find a company that is fast growing, is kind of like a startup culture, but they have like revenue. You want to be able to provide value with a high value skill. Whatever industry it is, like nail down that really good skill.
You talked about a company that you scaled super rapidly. What did you take them from like 100 grand a month?
50, yeah.
50 grand a month to
2 million a month.
$1 million a month in how much?
2 million a month in like 6 months.
2 million a month in 7-8 months. All right, Cole Gordon, welcome to the podcast.
All right, we're on. Let's do it.
We're live, dude.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you, man. It's been a long time coming. We're excited.
Yeah.
My audience is excited to have you, man.
Sick.
For those of you guys watching that don't know who Cole Gordon is, it'd be probably pretty hard because he's the #1 high-ticket sales trainer in the industry right now. How much are you spending on ads per month right now?
You know, I don't even know off the top of my head, but probably like anywhere from 400. I know the most we've probably spent is 800 in a month,
Wow.
I'd say.
Wow, so you're spending like
maybe
$500,000 a
900.
month.
Yeah, I mean, usually more than that, but
Wow.
yeah, it just depends.
Okay, cool. And what would you say for the audience? I just want to jump straight into it. What do you think separates a 0.001% sales rep, like the top earners are making $250,000, $500,000 or more, and the guys who are making like 50, 60 grand a year?
So for sales, huh? I would say the main thing, like if I think back of why like the only way I really know how to explain and answer this question is I could just tell you my experience, what I think may be good. Is like, I certainly didn't, I mean, I've met guys who've been doing high ticket sales for 20 years, right? And I'd only been doing it for 2 or 3 years full time. And I was significantly better than them, like tremendously better than them. So what was the difference, I guess, between me and them? Because I would think this all the time. I'm like, man, how have you been doing this 20 years? And like, you're good. Like somebody I would hire,
Yeah.
but not, somebody who is going to be the top person on the sales team of every single sales team that they're on, somebody who could be a sales director, somebody who eventually can create, a great sales training business, et cetera, right? So what was the difference? I think for me, the biggest difference, and I don't know exactly how to slap a word on this, but it's every single call I took. I was never, I think most people when they're in sales, they kind of have this like clock in, clock out mentality, like let me get through my calls and then get through the day. And it's kind of like they look at it as a job. Yeah. A lot of high ticket salespeople, they come from the marketing industry, at least in our space, right? And so a lot of them are doing stuff on the side. They're doing like an e-commerce business and print on demand. Even for me, when I started my first sales job, I was like the worst person on the team and I sucked. And a lot of it was because I just wasn't going all in on it. Like I just wasn't fully like burn the boats, dedicated. Like I'm just going to fucking be the best. I'm going to spend 3 years just being the fucking best at this. And like I was in an e-commerce mastermind. I was fucking launching t-shirts. I tried to sell like at one point I was doing affiliate marketing for like gambling websites.
What?
Yeah, I mean I was doing all sorts of stupid shit. And then what happened is I eventually, I became, even despite that, I actually still became the top salesperson eventually when I got my shit together on my first team. And then the second team, I became really good. When I went to work for Traffic and Funnels, the standards were so high that like I just had to burn the boats on everything else. Like I couldn't focus on anything else. And that's really like that environment really, I was good. I was very good when I got there. Yeah. But I left just so much better. And honestly, like I didn't learn a ton about sales. Yeah. What I learned about was how to be an exceptional human being and how to have really high standards, which, by the way, makes you really good at sales, right? So I didn't necessarily learn a lot of sales tactics or get a lot of call reviews. I just learned how to become a great human and a great leader. And that's really what made that experience so good. And so to bring that full circle, what's the difference? I think for me is like once I really made that commitment, it's like every call that, even if I closed it, but I didn't think it was my best, man, I just reviewed so many of my calls. I didn't really, I hired all the coaches, took all the programs, like that was a given. But I also just like every single time I would really like look at every single call of like, how can I intentionally get better on every single call, review, get feedback? And, the great thing about high ticket sales is it's like the fastest feedback loop.
Yep.
It's like really it's such a quick feedback loop of personal development, right? Because if you're not up to your standards, if you're not, especially in like doing that, if you're not sleeping well, doing your routine or taking care of yourself, what happens is like that shows up really quickly on your calls. So it helps you build a lot of great habits and disciplines as well. So I would say that's the biggest thing, is just the intentionality I put towards it and the amount of, look, like it's, if you want to be the best, like it's a given, like even people out there who I bought people's programs who, quite frankly, I thought I was better than them, but I still bought their program. And then, you know what? I learned one or two things. I got every single coach that was available, I just buy their program.
Wow.
And I also just learned a lot about business in general. I had a great, like anything I was selling, I was an expert in what I was selling. And like, I know that's like a cliche thing to say, but like genuinely, like when I was selling a traffic and funnels, like, I mean, I knew more than any person coming on the call about how to scale a coaching business. And if you want proof of that, well, the first 2 days I launched my own coaching business, I did like almost $100,000. So like, I mean, that's a pretty fast start, right? Now, obviously I had a little bit of audience and stuff, but I just knew what I was doing, and then I was able to scale so quickly. Like that's the proof of how much I really knew, even when I was in sales. Yeah. Right. And income and skills trace over time. So like a good way to think about it is if you look at like a chart, right, like this. Like when I was in those sales positions, I was really committed to learning about the industry, really committed to learning about skills. My skills were going like this, they were going crazy up, right? But my income, I was doing like $30,000 a month, right? I hit a kind of a cap, and I was just selling one offer. With the comp structure we had, that was very, very good at the time, right? Yeah. I know some sales guys, they can rip $100,000 a month. That's amazing. I know for me, like that would have been impractical with the comp structure and the lead flow and all this stuff that we had. But I was doing very, very good. But I was at like $30,000 a month, so I was plateaued. But then once I got into a different opportunity vehicle, income traces skills over time. So it's like my income just, and I just immediately was an $100,000 to $200,000 a month guy, immediately, because I was in a different opportunity vehicle. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, totally. I mean, I think I answered a few questions there, but hopefully that makes sense.
No, it's super valuable. So if someone's watching this and they are a sales rep and they're like, I'm committed, they've burned the boats and they're in an opportunity, when did you realize that it was the time to switch vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I think for me it was it really was a personal decision, to be quite frank. Okay. When I left there, I just didn't know where else. I mean, I wanted to still be a salesperson or be involved in sales. Like I loved it. I just didn't really know who else I was going to work for. I mean, the only other person was maybe Alex Hormozy. I thought about that, but like I had heard that their comp structure wasn't that great. So like, I was like, well, I don't want to make less. And I didn't know, nowadays, like there's a lot of sales guys and sales opportunities making 40, 50, 60 plus, right? So like, yeah, I mean, if that would have been around, and there's a lot more sales director opportunities. Yeah, if that stuff would have been around, I probably just would have done that.
You would have done that.
Yeah, but I just didn't, like maybe it was ignorance. I don't know. Like I was like, well, I don't really know what else I can do. And I was like, man, if I could just make 30, 40 grand a month, teaching some stuff and having some clients and some sales teams I work with, like that would be fun. And so then obviously, you know me and the type of guy I am, like I didn't settle for 30, 40 grand a month. It just kind of kept building and building and building. So yeah, I mean, obviously it worked out really, really well, but it wasn't even like, and I didn't even leave intentionally. Like I just burned out really hard, And I think even for TF at the time and Taylor, like I think they've learned a lot of lessons in terms of, energy regulation, et cetera. And I was the epitome of somebody who just like, I just was all out, man. I just burned myself out, never took vacations, never, so I just kind of got to a point where I was just like done. And, when I left, it wasn't premeditated. I didn't really have a plan. Yeah. And so I just kind of fell into doing this, I guess.
Yeah, you just kind of launched your thing, and then
yeah.
I want to talk about for a second these opportunities, because I have a lot of people that watch me that are sales reps or want to be sales reps. It's very, very booming. But how does someone identify a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month opportunity? Because I know guys too
for sales.
Yeah, for sale. How do you identify those opportunities if you're a sales rep?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, it's only three things on a tactical level. It's just like the lead flow, the commission structure, and then the close rate, right? Like that's really all it comes down to. Now, how do you find your way into and get those opportunities? Well, you got to obviously start with the more regular ones.
Yeah.
It's probably like 10, 20, 30. And then you got to also get involved and try to be involved in the industry and build a network and build your personnel. And then what most likely, if like what you really want to do is just stay focused on sales and sales skill set, and you want to make, $1 million a year or something. The easiest thing to likely do is just fractionally manage a few teams once you get really good.
Okay.
A guy used to work for me just recently, like he was one of our best guys, and then he was a sales director. Now he just like fractionally manages a few teams and probably works less and makes more, know? And so, we've had several people do that.
Yeah.
So, I think eventually, creating those partnerships like that is good. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. No, it definitely does. And that's what I did, right? Because I was in a sales opportunity, and then Greg was like, hey, come and build my sales team.
Exactly. Yeah, you're a good example of that.
Right. And so that's exactly what I did. But I guess for me, I have a lot of young guys.
Yeah.
And I'm the same. I was kind of the same way. I'm like, we kind of have like elevated sense of what we can accomplish.
Yeah.
So what are some benchmarks if you're a closer that you're like, dude, like don't go try to manage a sales team till you hit these numbers? And obviously they're relative for lead flow and the industry and the offer, but like generic numbers where it's like, okay, I've gotten pretty close to maxing out this opportunity.
Yeah, all in all, like you just want to be the best team in every team that you're in. Because I don't really know how to give it metrics. Like it really depends, man. Like when I first started, I was selling like a crappy product to real estate agents that had no idea who we were. They'd answer the phone to be like, well, what was this about? I don't even remember. And they were like 70 years old. So crazy. But I learned how to sell really well. But dude, selling like 25% on that, you were like a god.
Right, because it's such bad marketing.
Yeah. So like I can't really give any of these benchmarks of income and closing rate and this and that because it's obviously very, very dependent. But what I can tell you is if like, you should be the best person on your team, right? And then, when you get to a point where you're on a truly high caliber team, which is probably very few right now, but I would, put our team up there as one.
Yep.
You want to be the best or at least like top 2 even still, right?
Yeah.
And, if you're there, I think you got to ask yourself the question of like, is there still room for me to grow? Which highly depends on who you're being led by.
Yeah.
And if there isn't, then, it's up to you. Like, what are your values? Do you value security more? Do you value growth more? And you got to make a personal decision.
Yeah. You said something earlier that I think was super valuable for the audience watching is you said, get involved in the industry, right? Start to network and build relationships. And that's one of the things that I moved to Scottsdale for was because I knew that if I moved here and I got around these guys, right? I knew Caleb Maddox was here. I didn't know you at the time, but then I hired, I worked with Todd Brown.
Yeah.
So how does one who is a nobody, right? I was a nobody in Idaho. Right, you at one point were probably nobody too. How did you build connections, and how can someone doing that? Because I'm sure you got tons of people bombarding you.
That's a great question, right? I don't think you necessarily do it like through messaging people on social media, but I think what you just said is a great example of it. You got to change your location and get around people in that way. Also, like the number one thing I think you could do, no matter what you want to do, and this is not even just closing, right? Is like find an industry you're passionate about. And then find a company that's like, it's really what was TF for me, right? So it's like find a company that is fast growing, is kind of like a startup culture, but they have like revenue. So like you're still gonna when I went to TF, they were kind of rebuilding and they had done really high numbers, and then they were rebuilding around $300 to $400 a month. So it was like perfect, right? And when I was there, we went from like $300 to $400 to like $1.5 million a month, right? And so like you want to find kind of an opportunity like that, like where it's an industry you're really passionate about. And you can work for a top fast growth company. And honestly, like any company below 50 million, probably. Shit. Even our company could exceed 50 million. And even at that, like I would still say we're a great place to work and develop and stuff like that. So, I think it could be maybe any company under 100 million. It just depends on the company. But you want to look for a really high caliber, fast growing, awesome, great culture, great growth opportunity company in an industry that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Then when you go there, you want to be able to provide value with a high value skill.
What's going on, guys? It's Bridger. Listen, a lot of you guys watching the podcast want to know how you guys can get a hold of me. Best way is to join my Bridge Builder Brotherhood and shoot me a DM on School. First link in the description. You've got exclusive content, monthly coaching calls with me, and I'm posting all the time in there. It's like our own little social media platform. First link in the description, completely for free. Let's get back to the podcast.
Right. And so that could be anything in any different industry, right? Like in our industry, it's like copywriting, media buying, high ticket sales. Coaching is a great skill. Leadership is a great skill. But even some of the operational stuff and finance stuff is a great skill. Like there's so many different things, but you really want to, whatever industry it is, like nail down that really good skill, right? And then just go all out and just really try to, again, upgrade your skills, and then eventually stack those skills with other skills and try to maybe move throughout that organization, or if that organization is not going to give you the potential that you want, move into a different organization and kind of level up there. And then what's gonna happen is, if like for me, I worked for 3 different companies in this industry, and I was able to meet a lot of people that way. I moved to the right location, and I was able to build these skills. So the network kind of just happened as a byproduct of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing I think most people who are younger can do, though, is they really should just take like a year or 2 and just make good money, trying to provide a lot of value to a great company.
I love that.
Because like there's so many lessons that you're going to learn from an 100-person organization, for instance, that you're never going to learn trying to start and grow your own company from scratch, right? Like you just don't know. I don't know how you would. Yeah. And so I think that's big. Obviously you can figure it out without doing that. Many people have. But I just think like you can learn a lot in even just a year. To be honest.
You can shortcut so much time learning lessons, hardship. So if you were not as big as you are, because obviously you're not hiring beginners, but put yourself in the shoes of like a small business doing maybe 100, 200 grand a month. That's looking to hire their first closer, or maybe just their first setter. Imagine I'm someone that's never done sales. Right? How do I convince a business owner to hire me if I don't have sales experience? Like, what are the things they're looking for?
Well, yeah. Okay. Keep in mind, if you're a setter, right? Like, and there's different levels of setter. Like there's messenger setter, there's outbound setter, there's, and there's just different flavors of the skill sets that are needed, right? But in most cases, you don't have to be like experienced at all. Yeah. Right? Okay. So I think the number one thing is like, again, like it's pretty easy, honestly. Like you just got to identify people who are probably hiring setters, whether that's Facebook groups or people who run ads or whatever, and just reach out to them. And, in our programs, I give like exactly what to say. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. But I mean, in general, like if you're willing to come on and call, like for instance, if you're willing to come on, call old leads and just prove yourself, many business owners are not going to say no to that, right?
Ooh, that's good.
And so, that's just the easy way to like get your foot in the door. And most business owners aren't really going to be hiring experienced setters most often. Sometimes like a company like mine will, but we have a lot of reasons why people would want to work for us. Like some closers will go be a setter just to work for us, right? Yeah. So that's very rare, but in most companies, they're going to be hiring people from kind of scratch. And setting's like not terribly difficult either. So like that would be the first way to get in, and then just do a really good job. Hit your numbers, become the best setter on the team. Then next thing you know, you become a closer on that team or a closer somewhere else, and there you go.
I love that. I like what you said about calling old leads, because I get probably 2-3 messages a day if people like want to set for me. Yeah. Right. And you probably get hundreds. So I think that's a good way to separate yourself. And I think also a video.
Video. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I mean, like you can look on job boards. There's like tons of positions open. Like it's not terribly difficult. Like get networked. I mean, and maybe even like go be an ops person for a company and just like freaking just, start at the lowest level. But then then if you go somewhere else, like you could say, hey, I used to work here. I'm only leaving or looking into a new position because I really want to get into sales. Or then you can maybe get promoted into a setter from that. Like there's all sorts of opportunity there.
Yeah. I want to talk about the skill stacking, because that's something that I'm doing, right? I got in and have closed for a while, and I feel like I've gotten pretty good at that skill. Now I want to develop my marketing skill set, right? Because I realized that if the phone ain't ringing, if there's no leads, then it doesn't matter how good of a closer I am. Yeah. So how did you develop like your marketing skills? Because we were sitting up in the sauna, we were chilling, and you were like my marketing is probably what has made me who I am as far as building the business, right? Your marketing skills, your ability to scale companies. You talked about a company that you scaled super rapidly. What did you take them from like 100 grand a month? 50 grand a month to
2 million a month.
$1 million a month in how much?
2 million a month in like 6 months.
2 million a month in 7-8 months. Yeah. Which is pretty much unheard of in the industry, right?
Yeah. Well, so the question is how to get good at what, marketing?
Yeah, marketing if I'm new, beginner, etc.
Yeah, so I mean, man, like it's a long journey, obviously. Like anything, like you become better over time. I mean, this is a tough one for me to answer because quite frankly, like if I could really break it down and like teach people this repeatedly, I'd be doing 5x the level of business that I am doing now, right? So it's tough. It's tough to teach, to be honest. It's tough, and a lot of people who, when they figure out how to do it, they just do their own thing. So how did I do it? I guess that's the easiest way to explain it. Early on, I started just posting a lot of content. So, I mean, I would write Facebook posts. And I mean, I think that's still a thing, to be quite frank. I don't log into Facebook anymore. I think it's terrible. But, I know some people still do well with Facebook posts. And so I would write a lot of Facebook posts and a lot of writing. I think that helped a lot.
The writing.
Yeah. And maybe it's a email list thing. And you could write daily emails. And so what you want to do is you want to read this book called Great Leads. That's the easiest way to start.
Okay. Step 1.
And maybe some basic copywriting books like the Ray Edwards How to Write a Copy That Sells book. Like, I mean, that's real basic, but if you don't know anything,
yeah, you don't know anything.
Just read that, I guess, too.
Okay.
And get an idea. Just read some copywriting books. You'll kind of like start to get the idea of like, okay, like here's what it is. But Great Leads is a really, really good one that really helped me. And then like I would just start writing stuff daily, because even content, like a good YouTuber could easily become a good VSL writer, for instance, within 24 hours. I mean, like they'd have to learn a few nuances, but I mean, it's like basically the same thing.
Yeah.
In fact, like I would say most YouTubers that are really good are better than VSL people by nature, because it's all about retention. So if you start making content that people gets their attention and that they consume, especially right now with all the noise, that's like the easiest way to start building the muscle, right? And that's what I did with Facebook posts. Like, I mean, I grew our company to 100, 200 a month just from like Facebook groups, posts in Facebook group, right? And just posting, that was it. Yeah. So that was kind of step 1. And then step 2, I mean, I think like you just got to be, I was very, very aware at all times of what our market was doing, and the top people who were advertising in our market, what were they saying and how were they saying it and what promotions were working. And so I was just very, very much a student of the market, and I studied a lot of people coming up very, very, very well. And so you have to write a lot, and you also have to study great marketing that's working, right? And so from there, you can kind of start to formulate some stuff that works or doesn't work, et cetera. And then once you do that, I mean, you just have to try and put ads behind. I mean, if you're doing ads, right, put ads behind it, see what works, see what doesn't work. Get coaching and just continue to read books, get information, study great marketing, and improve and iterate. And I think it kind of falls in place, eventually. But I think it's tough for people. I think really one of the only ways is you really just have to like drill down on that skill. I think it helps when you put your own money behind it too. Yeah. Obviously, if you want to get really good, just go be a copywriter for somebody else. That would be the way to get just savage, or even just freelance it, right? Because you're going to get so many reps. Yeah. So I would say that, I mean, there's also something to consider, which is the internal like copywriting process. So like when I write something, I spend, a long time on research, right? So like when I wrote the original for our, sales certification, when I wrote that promotion, I spent like a month and a half researching, studying all the best stuff in the market, all the webinars out there, all the VSLs out there. I mean, man, it is crazy to think back of how hard I like studied 2 months worth. I mean, I didn't study for 2 months, but it took me 2 months to create it. Probably freaking 75 days was studying, or not 75 days, but 45 days. And, and you kind of break down and figure out, and like I was taking a lot of courses and stuff like that to just kind of piece together, like, how do you do a VSL? Like, I don't know how to do this VSL thing, right? And so eventually, like, man, after all of that, I mean, I just took so much action on the research part, I just couldn't have lost. And so then my first draft of it, I ended up sitting on that. I thought it was good. I was like, no, this sucks. Rewrote it. And that second draft, I mean, just from the day it launched, did like 30 million. I mean, shit, I don't know. Wow. I don't know how much it's done. It's done at least over $20 million though, for sure. Wow. Maybe 30, I don't know. But
just and you keep running the same VSL, it just converts.
Yeah, we don't run it anymore. Okay. It's just old at this point. It's like I recorded it in 2019. Oh wow. Or even earlier. Maybe I guess it was 2020. But so it's too old now. But it crushed, man. Wow. It did really well. Yeah.
What do you think were some of the components in the VSL?
It's all the same. It's all the same. It's just persuasion, right? So it's like, the fundamental framework is you got to get somebody's attention, And once you get somebody's attention, you got to sell them on why they should consume the rest of the content, right?
Okay.
That's like the fundamental thing in the beginning. And so how do you get somebody's attention? There's a lot of different ways to think about it, but the way I think about it is the 4 U's, right? So this is popularized by Mark Ford. So things need to be unique, useful, ultra specific, and urgent, right? And you want to try to get 2 or 3 out of the 4. If you can get all 4, I mean, that's a banger, right?
In your headline, right?
Yeah, I mean, just, within the first like 5 seconds or the first, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's a part of it. Another part of it is in the lead, there's also a framework from Owen Claff. I think this was in Pitch Anything or his Flip the Script book. I forget what it was. But this one was Y squared or Y cubed, sorry. And that's what's in it for me, why should I listen to you, and why now? So the why now plays off the urgency. What's in it for me plays off the benefit, right? And then why you plays off authority. So also, like, once I get their attention, you want to quickly establish authority. So like that's why I'm just gonna give you a really basic example. Like I could say, want to know the new way to generate high ticket clients that generated us 300 plus high ticket clients last month, right? Well, in that statement, I built authority, and if you look at that statement, want to know the new way to generate high ticket clients that generated us this last month, right? Well, it's unique, right? It's pretty specific. Is it urgent? Not really. Is it useful? Yes, right? So it's probably like 2.5 in that sense. And then it also builds some authority. And then, I might also say, you'll see a lot in how I write. I'll say, after consulting some of the top brands in the industry, spending 10 million plus on ads, having over 2,000 clients, I finally discovered a new way to insert benefit.
Wow.
And after all of that experience, what I've been able to do is boil it down into a blueprint to take you from blank to blank to blank to blank, right? So like you can see how it's like, that's also, I built authority in that statement without like, it's kind of like subtle in a way. So again, you want to get attention. Along with that, you want to quickly establish authority, and then you want to sell them on reading, not necessarily buying your offer, but reading the rest of the material, right? And so the way you do that is, again, like I kind of, in that example, I'm kind of doing it already, but like to give you another example, you might hear something that's like, need leads, or a great one would be like, Frank Kern does this all the time. It's like, so one of the ones I wrote a long time ago was simply just read if you want setters, right? I guess that was a direct offer. Okay. You'll see a lot of YouTube videos do this, right? And they really hook you on trying to stay to the end of the video. So they'll say, in this video, we're going to cover blank, 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 right?
Yeah.
That's a way to get them to
Keep
consume
watching.
the rest,
Yeah.
right?
If
In
you
sales
say
letters, you'll see like, so if you felt this way, or you had this problem, then read this all the way through, or this might be the important message you ever read, right? Because in this, we're going to cover bullet, 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 bullet. And this is like the fascinations, right? So hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of hard to like verbalize without seeing it, but
Yeah.
So again, it's like hook, promise, and then within that, you want to establish authority. Then once you do that, really the next section is whatever the content is, and that could be, communicating a certain amount of steps. That could be a story, whatever, right?
Yeah,
it's whatever the content is. And you want to kind of open enough loops in what's called the lead to be able to get people to all the way through into the story. Because once you have somebody in a story, it's like they're gonna kind of keep going through it. Does it make sense? Like it's a natural open loop in within itself. Yep. So then you have story, and then you really have the transition, and then the offer. Yeah. Right. And then with the offer, there's different elements. Obviously, there's like scarcity, bonuses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
scarcity or urgency. Yeah. So that's good. And that's super helpful, by the way, for the audience watching. If they're like, okay, how do I start to piece this together? I think it would be, what's a good example if they should go read like some incredible high converting copy, like what's converting right now that
the best thing to do would be to take Todd Brown's E5 program. You used to work for Todd.
I did.
That is like, I would say, I learned the most from him. Like that was somebody who's really good. John Benson's really good. Okay. Stefan Georgi's good.
Yeah.
Kyle Milligan's good. All those guys are good, right?
Yeah.
Like Take Their Money by Kyle Milligan is a really, really good book. So like,
Okay.
you just want to get in that space of Otto Albuquerque. He's really good. Russell Brunson's books are really good. So like, you consume enough of this and you'll start to
See the patterns.
Get it, right? And like, one of the meta things you want to think about is at the end of the day, you're really just trying to sell somebody on a thesis. So it's more of like, you're not necessarily trying to sell a product. You're trying to build an argument through a series of claims and proof. Okay.
What?
the hand gesture you're doing.
I'm trying to piece it together in my mind.
You're trying to build an argument through a series of claims and proof that really gets the prospect to believe one thing, right? And Russell Brunson calls this the domino belief.
Yeah.
Other people have called it the central marketing thesis. People call it all sorts of stuff. But it's the one thing that if they believe, they're just going to buy as a byproduct, right? So like Russell Brunson, if you watch his presentations, he doesn't try to sell you on ClickFunnels. He tries to sell you on the idea that funnels is the best, most effective way to generate whatever online, right? So it's all about selling on that idea, which is going to be it also takes the copy and makes it educational, not like promotional. Does it make sense? And so that's a big thing. You'll see people do that in supplements and all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you're selling a supplement on helping men with ED or something like that, you're going to essentially sell on why a certain compound or what have you is the most important, thing, right? And so it's not necessarily on the product; it's on the idea or the mechanism, so to speak. Hopefully that makes sense.
I like that.
I don't teach a lot of like hardcore copywriting.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm kind of trying to assimilate, what I do. But there's many better teachers on the hardcore copywriting stuff than I am, and many of them.
Yeah. Well, you did a great job. Made sense to me, and I know the audience probably feels the same. But who are some of the best? So you Todd Brown. And who else would you study that has incredible free content? Let's say someone's broke, like dude has like.
Well, John Benson and Todd both have a good YouTube channel.
Okay.
I'm sure if Kyle Milligan has a good YouTube channel. Otto Albuquerque, I'm sure you could YouTube him. All these guys you could probably YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Transitioning to leadership, right? And how do you build a great culture? Because that's what I'm working on right now. I'm very new at that. And dude, how many people do you have working with you now?
Yeah, I don't even know the exact number, but it's probably around 100.
Yeah, or more, right? Between your companies that you have a portfolio equity in.
Yeah. Well, I don't even count that.
Yeah, you don't even count that. Wow, so 100-person team. And one of the things I respect about what you've built is you're not like just the central guy. Like you got Mitchell, you got Brian, you got all these powerhouses.
Yeah.
So how do you number one, like attract them and retain those powerhouses when you like? I don't think I could. Maybe it's a limiting belief, but I don't know if I could attract like a Mitchell right now. Maybe in a little bit, but like a mini version of that, where it's like my own little Mitchell that can come in and help like integrate or build or scale. Like I'm looking to find that person. So how do I?
What's going on, guys? It's Bridger. Listen, a lot of you guys watching the podcast want to know how you guys can get a hold of me. Best way is to join my Bridge Builder Brotherhood and shoot me a DM on school. First link in the description. You've got exclusive content, monthly coaching calls with me, and I'm posting all the time in there. It's like our own little social media platform. First link in the description, completely for free. Let's get back to the podcast.
Well, it's tough, right? And so the number one answer I have is that you have to become the type of person that those people want to work for, right? Which means not only your, as Hormozy would put it, like character traits, skills, and beliefs have to be at a certain level and have to be somewhere where this person thinks they're going to learn from you. But at the same time, you have to have a mission, vision, and values that they can fit. They get a vision so big that they can fit their vision under it, right? So, easy way to think about vision, mission, and values is vision is sort of where you're going. Mission is why you're going where you're going. And the values is how you're going to interact on the journey of where you're going, right? And so you got to get good at setting those, right? So I'll give you an example, right? Okay. For the stem cell company that we have 50% in, that's the fastest clinic in the nation. The vision is to create a future where aging is a choice, not a destiny.
That's
right?
Fire, dude.
Right? And then the mission is, the reason we're doing that is because too many people have to say goodbye too soon. Goodbye to their longevity, goodbye to their functional health, and most importantly, goodbye to their loved ones. Right? And then the values are, I'll give you an example of our values. It's a little easier. Is high say-do ratio, right? When you say something, you actually do it. Have fun. That's pretty self-explanatory. It's get in, stay in sync, right? Like always being on the same page. Like when you're on a sports team, it's like if you've ever been on a really good sports team, it's like you feel like you're just like on the same, everybody's doing their job, you're on the same page, it's in sync, right? It's over communication, no problems ever happen because of over communication, etc.
Yeah.
So high safety ratio, have fun, get in stay in sync, world-class mentality, right? Or pro athlete mentality, like treating it like you're a professional athlete, but in the business realm.
Yeah.
Right? And then radical candor, which is the intersection of radical transparency, but then also doing it and caring personally about somebody. So telling them not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear, and really just like being honest and like being able to be transparent and stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
So, those are similar things we set up for the stem cell company. But again, like those are big and like they're talked about a lot in our company. It creates this sticky culture. And so you need to have, again, a big vision, a place where people can grow a lot, et cetera, and be doing something exciting. Like, believe me, recruiting for the stem cell company, way easier than recruiting for my company. Because the opportunity is so big. It can become $1 billion thing, right? So it's just like an example of, what can really make a difference.
Let's say I'm creating my values. I do have values, but let's say I recreate them. Someone watching. I've heard a couple ways you can do it. I'm going to build like the superhuman employee, and I'm just going to build the character traits that I want in that ideal person. Or I've also heard like, how do you operate? What's the unique parts about how you're operating as a leader that separates you from everyone else? Like, what would you say like is a good formula for building them out?
Building
the values. Oh, sorry, the values. Yeah, like how did you pick those?
So what I would do is the best thing to do is read a couple books.
Okay.
And I don't know why I don't have like necessarily a really great framework, but I do have a knack for doing this pretty effectively. Is Jeff Bezos's all of his letters to shareholders are really, really good. The Everything Store by Jeff Bezos, really, really good. That was probably my biggest inspiration. Then also the Jim Collins books, especially Built to Last and Good to Great, I believe. There might be another one in there, but those two are very, very good from a values perspective. And then I'm sure there's a bunch of other books that can help you with this that are good too. I think for me, it's like less about trying to come up with something cool. It's like more about like you kind of like let the company get past the startup stage, and then you're sort of like, who are we as a company?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and you really think about who are we, and then also what are the things that are pissing us off, and then invert those. And then what are we also striving to be? And like, what is our mission and our vision, and how, like, with the way we're scaling and growing, how do we need to interact in a way that's going to be able to get there? And so it really depends depending on the company. Like, obviously a really, a company with a heavy sales model is going to have different values probably than a company with a heavy product or tech model, right? So it just depends, right?
Yeah, because I know we're coming up on time, so I want to be respectful of your time. I want to ask a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So the next question I want to ask you is how many books do you read a week? Because you talk about a lot of books, a lot of courses. Like, how much are you spending out of your week learning?
Not a lot now, but that's something that I
did.
And I wish I still did. It's just as you get more advanced, it's like less books,
more doing
hit home.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like you're kind of like
it's the same shit.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to find the signal to the noise, right? And so like, just like tough to read anything that's really good. But in the beginning, like I would read a lot of books. I think books are great. The best ones that really helped me though are copywriting books are quite phenomenal. Like I don't know what it is, but out of any category of books, those books were really, really good.
The ones you mentioned earlier on the podcast?
Yeah.
Is there any you didn't mention that you would want to mention?
No, I think that's enough. But yeah, those books are really, really good. That's why I mentioned so many of those.
Okay.
And then it just depends on the topic you're doing, and you really got to take just as much time trying to find the right book as actually reading the book.
Yeah, executing. How much money have you invested in yourself as far as like masterminds, courses, programs? If you had to guess,
millions and millions.
Millions.
Oh, easily, yeah.
2 million, 3 million, 5 million.
Yeah, I don't know. Courses and coaches. And
like one-on-one coaches, masterminds, events.
At least 2 million, maybe 3.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know, but maybe I'm overinflating it. Lowest 1.5 for sure.
Okay,
that's but I think it's more than that.
And you'll even buy a course, like you said, if you're just looking to get one or two things.
Yeah, I buy random people's courses now. And people will email me and be like, dude, it's crazy, you're in my course. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I just want to like try to learn one thing.
Wow. That's a powerful mindset.
I've been in there was a point where I was in like 10 masterminds at once. Like, I don't recommend doing that, but like you know, I mean, that was a waste of money. I didn't really like get, you know, through most of it, but that stuff helps, dude. It, you know, it does. I just try to consume a lot of information.
Okay. 2 more questions and we'll get out of here. So the next question has to do with the systems that you developed in TF or just in general that are your fallback. Like anytime like chaos is hitting, things aren't going well. Like what are the systems that get you out of that? Because I know one of the things when I took your course that was really, really helpful was the end of day report. Do you still do those every day, like end of day, or like what are the things you still do at scale?
I personally don't do it, but like, you know, if stuff triggers me, I'll write it down and I'll journal about it. That helps.
What are the fundamentals of being a high performance human being? If you're trying to get up out of this broke mindset, like I'm trying to make something of myself.
Right. Energy, necessity, clarity, and inspiration. So energy is your like biology, right? So like, are you doing just the basic stuff, right? Like, are you going to bed at the same time every night, waking up at the same time, sleeping well, you know, is your health good? Are you eating good? Like, you know, you don't need to be like some crazy biohacker to get like 90% of the results there, right? And so like, what's that like? That's probably number one. Okay. Number 2 is clarity, you know? What's your vision? Do you know what you want? Are you clear on that? Like most people burn out, not because nobody ever burns out because they work too hard usually, right? They burn out because they wake up one day and they just don't know what they're even striving to do. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing, you know? And so you have to have that dialed in, and you have to make sure your vision's also, you know, you have a vision that you can attain. I got this from Taylor. So a vision that is big enough that excites you, but small enough to where you know how to get there.
Okay.
Right. Or know reasonably how to get there. Like you can take some steps forward. Inspiration. Like, I mean, I think a good content diet is really, really key. I've been kind of lazy with mine lately. I need to hold myself more accountable to that. But like, you know, I've been watching like too much YouTube and politics stuff, but I need to get more back into like, I used to just rip through courses.
Wow.
You know, that I'm like more of an audio learner and like audiobooks and even books, right? And so like that stuff's all very, very good. There's some good podcasts too, don't get me wrong. But you know, that's good. And then necessity, right? And that's really, you know, I can kind of combine that with clarity now that I think back on this. This is a framework I used to teach reps back in the day. But necessity is really like the why you're doing what you're doing. If you think of clarity as the what, necessity is the why. It's like, why is it important?
Yeah.
Right. And again, like most people burn out because they just don't know why they're really doing what they're doing anymore. But also like people who, you know, what's interesting is like, I heard Sam Altman say this and I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. And he was saying like the people just look at as like machines who can just work all the time. Like Patrick Bet-David is one that I look at, and you know, even Vivek Ramaswamy is another one where like he says he only sleeps like 4 hours a day. There's all sorts of people like that, right? And you're kind of like, what the deal? And there is like the genetic mutation that some people have, right? Yeah. But realistically, I think like what most of that is they're just so excited by what they're doing in their vision that they just want to get to work every day. Like they're just so aligned. And I think that's something that is super, super cool. I think it's also something that, you know, like, I think a lot of younger people put too much pressure to do that, right? Like, I don't think you're going to do that when you're 20. You know, I think you got to kind of get out there, and like a lot of those guys, like when they do get to that level, they're probably in like their 40s. Yeah. You know, so I think that is like the main thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And the last question is, what is your view on masculinity right now in men? Like, what's your thoughts on the decline, or do you think it's going up, down? Like, how do you see men in our society right now, and what do you think the biggest weakness that we're experiencing in our culture and society?
I mean, yeah, you know, it's so part of me, it's tough for me to say because I have like created a bubble.
Yep.
To where like I pretty much just hang out with and I'm around pretty masculine dudes, right? So like I don't see like much of what I know is going on, most likely, right? So yeah, it's tough for me to get a good read on it because like I'm just like I'm just in like a bubble. But like, yeah, I mean, look, like most guys don't have any role models. They don't have anybody to teach them anything about women, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
They don't have anything to teach them about success. and money and, you know, how to navigate that, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys who like, you know, they're like, oh my God, I'm not a millionaire by 21. Like I'm a fucking huge failure, right? So like, there's just not a lot of, and I just don't know if like the last generation of dads is like equipped to like, I mean, things have changed so much, right? Like, I don't know if they're really equipped to like know how to lead men and boys through that, right? So I think there's a lot of that. And then, you know, those two things, right? Like how you, and also health, right? Like, I think there's a lot of, I mean, you know, I don't think it's like, if you have any sort of motivation at all, I don't think it's that hard to try to get fit. But, you know, a lot of guys are just like, I mean, that's the first step, right? Like if you're just not like in shape, dude, or at least on your way there and making progress, like that's just unacceptable because there is just too much free information to fuck that up, you know? So those are the three things. I mean, I think a lot of guys like outside of the bubble, right? Okay. Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys, it's just like, you see, you know, they're just not in shape, lost, you know, Michael talks about this all the time, but like there's more men who haven't had a partner at least one time, than ever before. Yeah. Social media, there's like a hyperpergamy towards like 5% of the guys right now are getting 95% of the girls or 95% of the white swipes or whatever the, you know, so yeah, it's a struggle. And I just think there's not a lot of role models, for men, you know, which is why like Andrew Tate became so big is because of that. And, you know, like I think Andrew Tate's great in a lot of ways. Like there's obviously a few things I disagree with, but, you know, I think that, yeah, I'm not like a masculinity guru, but you know, it's definitely an issue, and there's definitely, you know, a need for guys to like get their shit together. And like, you know, honestly, as a society too, it's like we're pretty, see, I don't feel it because I've insulated myself so well, but we're pretty like wimpy, you know, like canceling people and just like the lack of free speech and all of these things, right? So like we're pretty wimpy and wussy, and we're afraid of offending people, and it's all like, you know, it's just kind of like a little bit of a wild world. So we need to, you know, I think eventually, you know, you've heard of the things like, what's the saying? Tough times create hard men, and then hard men create easy times, and easy times create soft men, and soft men create hard times. Yeah, it's like, I think we're going to have to go through one of those cycles to like fix it. But, you know, that's not something I really talk about a lot. Yeah. But it is something that's important. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Cole. Hopefully we'll have you back. I know that I thought this was extremely valuable. I think I'm going to take away a couple things and start reading these copywriting books. Is there anything else you'd want to share with the young guys out there, 18 to 25, that maybe do feel a little wimpy besides getting in shape? Like, what else can they do to just get a kick in the ass and like actually do something with their life?
Well, I mean, yeah, like go find an industry you're passionate about, and then go work for somebody in that industry, and try to build a high value skill. Like get that in order and get something consistent and going there. And then, I mean, getting in shape is like a gateway of personal development that leads you to a lot of other things. And also when you're younger, like spend some time trying to get good with women too, because as you get more successful and busy, it becomes harder to put more time there, right? And so, you know, if you're young, like, I would focus more on fitness and women and then trying to get a good job where you're learning skills more than anything, opposed to even like, oh my God, I got to start a company, you know? That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I like the guys you roll with. Obviously, you got like a good crew here. You built that over the last couple of years. Have you found that having that brotherhood is like very a foundation, like
helps a lot.
A foundational?
Yeah. And we kind of stumbled into that a little bit. Yeah, but it's also really great. Yeah, we got a great group of friends.
Yeah. What do you feel like? In the last question, what do you feel like that's done for you? Like knowing you have those guys to have your back, because I see the way you guys connect and stuff like that. What has that done for you? Like having that brotherhood. If you
I mean, again, that's that insulation I've been talking about, right? It's like I, you know, only hang out with a small number of people who are all business owners, who are all hyper in shape, who all have either amazing girlfriends or if not, like a really great dating life and a lot of options. So it's like it holds you to a great standard, and it's great. I mean, it's like, you know, you are like that is part of your environment, and your environment heavily influences who you are, right? So. Yeah, I think that's something that is really important. I think that it was, you know, I wanted that a long time ago, and it's hard to build. Like I didn't really have any action steps to build it. I sort of had to like focus on health, focus on the right things, focus on, you know, all the things with work that we already talked about. And then like eventually that kind of focus on changing my environment. And then eventually that stuff kind of happens as a byproduct if you're just a naturally like cool guy.
Yeah. I love that. Where can people find more of you? Because I know after
Yeah,
this.
closers.io. You know, my Instagram's at Cole Thomas Gordon, I believe. And so, you know, either of those is fine.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast,
Cool,
Cole.
man.
It's been awesome. If you're watching this, make sure that you subscribe, turn on the notification bell, leave your comments down below. What was the most valuable thing that Cole said? Till next time, brother.
All right, congratulations. If you made it to the end of the video, you're a 1%er. So do me a favor, do a couple things for me. Number one, share this with someone that you feel like will get tremendous value from this video. And then number two, we've got content that'll help you level up and bridge the gap in multiple areas of life. Your belief systems, your mindset, your body, your business, your brotherhood, your babe. So all you got to do is hit the link right here to watch my most recent video on how to bridge the gap with your belief system, with your body, with your business, with your brotherhood, and help you find a babe. See you guys in the next video.